Now, when I first got my mitts on the mighty new OnePlus 9 Pro just ahead of the official launch, it definitely was not ready for review. This shiny wee bugger was one glitchy morpho, so it's no surprise that over the last few weeks I've seen several massive updates hit the OnePlus 9 Pro, including dozens of fixes to the camera, improvements to the power consumption, the performance, and the general stability. And even though there were several updates, the biggest of these buggers was 3 gigs in size, showing that OnePlus definitely still had some work to do when it came to the OnePlus 9 Pro's general everyday experience. But 1 month on, things have improved, and so I slapped my SIM back inside the OnePlus 9 Pro, used it for the past week as my full-time personal handset, and here's my in-depth review. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, the design of the OnePlus 9 Pro is certainly nothing revolutionary, sticking very close to the blueprints left over from last year's models. In fact, it's kind of like the OnePlus 8 Pro and the OnePlus 8T hooked up at a discotheque and then had a sweaty fumble under the duvet, and this was their love child. From the front end, it's basically the OnePlus 8 Pro all over again, with the very skinny bezels and that screen that just gently slopes around the edges for a curved finish. While the arse end is fully inherited from the OnePlus 8T from the end of last year, complete with that camera chassis that's been wedged away in one corner. This Morning Mist model sports a mirror finish around back, which is cloudy up top and super shiny down below, but unfortunately they kind of got the whole thing backwards because they really should have fogged up the bit that you are touching all of the time to prevent finger smears from making a mess of it. I'll tell you what though, coming back to the OnePlus 9 Pro after using absolute behemoth house bricks like the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra is definitely a blessed relief. It is a slippery wee bugger, but it is also nice and light-ish as far as premium smartphones go, and seriously slender too. And the OnePlus 9 Pro is also pretty tough thanks to the Gorilla Glass 5 coating front and back with some shiny aluminium action sandwiched in between, plus of course that IP68 water and dust resistance. Admittedly, it would have been good to see a bit of upgrade to Gorilla Glass Victus action, certainly for that display, just to add a bit of extra drop resistance in as well as the scratch resistance, but apart from that, no complaints. Now, the software experience served up by the OnePlus 9 Pro is as familiar as that design, with Android 11 once again moulded into something more customizable and feature-packed by OnePlus's OxygenOS launcher. Nothing notably new has been added to this 2021 handset, but all the fan favourites are present and correct, including the funky canvas wallpaper tool, which makes an abstract background of your lovely mug, and those eclectic ambient display options, still not quite always on display. The focus mode and the Zen mode are also back in business to keep your eyes off the screen if you can bear to be away from the gram for more than a few minutes. And all those weird little bugs with Bluetooth and various other quirks that I experienced a month ago seem to have been completely squashed. Touch wood, this past week has been a blissful, bug-free experience. The in-display fingerprint sensor is another winner, screwing up only when your digits are a bit too sticky, and that face unlock is a worthy fallback when needed, and both are fast to function and reassuringly reliable. I'm also still a massive fan of that alert slider as well, which is very handy when you urgently want to silence a rowdy phone. And the OnePlus 9 Pro also comes with a choice of 128 or 256 gigs of onboard storage, UFS 3.1, so nice and nippy when you're transferring media, opening big apps, all of that good stuff. However, OnePlus has also stamped all over your hopes and dreams of expanding that storage via micro SD memory card, because there's just no support as usual. None. Now, OnePlus rarely disappoints when it comes to the media chops, and sure enough, this 6.7-inch AMOLED screen is like crack for your peepers. The Quad HD Plus resolution means shit is seriously sharp, whether you're reclining with some geeky anime shenanigans or browsing the old photo collection. HDR streaming is supported on services like Netflix, while colour reproduction can be tweaked to suit your tastes, from nice and natural to oh my god, pop 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 right in your face. And I love the motion smoothing feature too, which makes a real difference for action films. My only real complaint is that I'm still getting quite a dark picture in Netflix compared with other streaming services, even when I bump the in-app brightness to max, but it's nothing too troublesome. And it's good to see that the 120Hz refresh rate maximum here on the OnePlus 9 Pro is actually dynamic. It will scale back down again when it's not needed in order to help preserve the battery life. And on those rare occasions that the sun actually manages to penetrate that thick layer of British cloud, the OnePlus 9 Pro's display is easily a match to any kind of glare on top brightness. And the curve on the OnePlus 9 Pro is apparently a little bit less severe compared with last year's 8 Pro, so it should be less affected by palm intrusion, but I definitely noticed some responsiveness issues when I was reclining in bed or on the sofa and unwilling to shift from my horizontal state. Having to grip the phone that little bit harder definitely makes all the difference. And the OnePlus 9 Pro is an oral delight now now as well, with a respectable stereo speaker arrangement and dependable Bluetooth 5.2 streaming now that the original jankiness has been dealt with. And the LDAC support meant that streaming music to my Sony headphones, for instance, was an absolutely delightful experience. Really nice, crisp, clear, detailed audio, but sadly, as usual, bugger-all headphone jack action here on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Bum. As usual, this OnePlus flagship packs in Qualcomm's top-end SoC, namely the Snapdragon 888, backed by either 8 or 12 gigs of juicy DDR5 RAM. This is the 12 gig model and it's beefier than a cow pie, breezing through any task and chortling confidently at any Android game you chuck its way, helped in no small part by the upgraded cooling tech, including an expanded vapor chamber and a shag load of graphite. The likes of Genshin Impact will judder at times when you boost the graphics to those max settings, and the phone definitely does get a bit toasty over time too. OnePlus's gaming mode may have changed its name from the Fnatic mode to just the plain old Pro gaming mode, but this still basically does the same job, blocking notifications, stopping background tasks from nicking all your precious memory, and keeping things running as smoothly as possible. Plus, the display's 360Hz touch sampling rate means you've only got your crap booze-soaked reactions to blame when some bloody school kid blows your bollocks off from 20 feet away. And naturally, as you would expect from any premium smartphone in 2021, you got full built-in 5G support as well as a tasty bit of Wi-Fi 6. And the battery life on the OnePlus 9 Pro is good, but not great. There was the occasional day where I scraped by on absolute dregs and just made it to bed with around sort of 1 or 2% battery life remaining. That's with around sort of 5 to 6 hours of screen on time and nothing too taxing, a little bit of camera use, bit of media streaming, but not much more. But thankfully, recharging this shiny wee slab is fast as out. You've got the Warp Charge 65T tech on board, and that basically means even if it's completely drained, plug it in with the supported charger and you'll get a full battery again in 28 minutes. And you've also got Warp Charge wireless support as well, so if you use OnePlus's fan-assisted wireless charger, you will again get a full charge from empty in around sort of 40 to 50 minutes. And I love how you can deactivate that fan from within the phone's settings as well. So for instance, if you stick the phone on the wireless charger at night before you're about to get some kip, you don't want that thing whirring away just a few feet away from your head, so that's great news too. Of course, one of the big headlines at the OnePlus 9 launch was how OnePlus has entered a 3-year partnership with optics expert Hasselblad to fine-tune that camera performance. Although it's very early days and so far there's no real massive evidence of Hassel's influence beyond this lovely orange shutter button in the camera app. The OnePlus 9 Pro's 48-megapixel Sony IMX789 sensor can generally capture good-looking photos across a range of conditions, even dealing pretty well with strong lighting. As usual, you will notice some softer tones and detail washout when it's a very bright day, but the Pro was a winner when it came to moving subjects, very rarely letting me down. Combined with the optical image stabilization, you will nary be blighted by blur. Likewise, low-light shots tend to offer strong detail and reasonably natural colours, with that nightscape mode on hand to brighten things up a tad when needed. It's not exactly a Huawei-style see-in-the-dark effort, but neither does it blow out those lighter elements. And if you jump on into the Pro mode as well, you'll be able to shoot 12-bit RAW images for editing on the fly. You do get the usual troubles when you're switching to the OnePlus 9 Pro's 50-megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens or that 8-megapixel telephoto shooter. Colour reproduction suffers considerably, with pics looking anything but natural. Still, the ultra-wide-angle lens uses that same anti-distortion tech as the Oppo Find X3 Pro, so you don't get any weird warping, while the telephoto shooter can capture crisp images at a distance with its 3x optical zoom and that built-in OIS. Pinch in further and things tend to stay reasonably sharp up to just before the 10x zoom level, but you will be served up grainy rubbish long before you hit the 30x zoom ceiling. And that final lens in the meantime is a basic 2-megapixel monochrome shooter for your more stylish arty-farty snaps. Now you can shoot 8K resolution video here on the OnePlus 9 Pro, just like Samsung's S21 range and a handful of other phones too, although most of my footage was captured at 4K res, where you get a choice of 30, 60 or 120 frames per second action, plus HDR smarts, which can slightly help out in strong contrast. I was perfectly happy with how my home movies turned out here. You get strong detailing indoors and out as well at that Ultra HD setting, as well as a natural smoothness at the higher frame rates. Plus you can swap between all three of those lenses on the fly at 4K res, no restrictions. And even if you do shoot at 120 frames per second, there's only a 5-minute time limit imposed. Audio capture is also fine, if a little quiet in front of the lenses without much in the way of wind distortion, and the image stabilization is perfectly great as always. And last up, for that 16-megapixel selfie cam, this does an absolutely adequate job of shooting your mug, with a portrait mode that occasionally throws in some bonus jankiness, but usually it's fine. and you even get quite bright results in low light situations. And that right there is my full 1 month review of the OnePlus 9 Pro in a nutshell. And as you can see, there's no absolutely killer must-have upgrade in there, no thrilling feature that absolutely sets it apart from other devices, but the overall package is nice and solid now that all those annoying little quirks and bugs have been battered to death with an iron baseball bat. Definitely if you're a more demanding user but you don't want to stretch up to the absolutely silly prices that the likes of Apple and Samsung charge for some of their more premium kit, then the OnePlus 9 Pro is a worthy option, although you can get more for your money if you sort of scale back a bit these days. For instance, anyone who wants strong performance but on a much stricter budget will be more than happy enough with the Poco F3. But anyway, that's what this bold northern git reckons. What do you reckon? Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!